Welcome. Let's begin this bulletin with the latest coming in from Australia. Tennis superstar Novak Djokovic has lost his legal bid to avoid deportation from Australia. A federal court has unanimously rejected Djokovic's appeal to stay in the country and compete in the Australian Open.
The orders of the court are: 1. The amended application be dismissed with costs, such costs to be agreed or failing agreement assessed. 2. Reasons to be published at a later date. Those are the orders of the court.
Djokovic has, however, released a statement. He has said that he is extremely disappointed with the court's decision. However, he says he would respect it and cooperate with the authorities facilitating his departure from the country. Government lawyers argued that Djokovic's continued presence in the country was a risk, as it could lead to anti-vaccination sentiments. This comes at a time when the country is facing its worst COVID-19 outbreak since the pandemic began. The latest decision effectively ends Djokovic's hopes of setting a world record at the Australian Open. Djokovic will be deported from Australia ahead of the Australian Open. Djokovic has spent much of the last week in immigration detention. His visa has been revoked twice by the government. Well, for more on this, WION's sports editor Digvijay Singh Deo is now joining us live. Djokovic has reacted to the verdict, saying he's extremely disappointed with the judge's decision to uphold the cancellation of his visa, but will not appeal the ruling. Digvijay, what do you make of this whole saga?
Well, as things stand, I don't think Novak Djokovic had any other appeal, course of left for him, because I did an interview with Stefanos Tsitsipas a few days back, in which he said that Djokovic has always played by his own rules, and that Novak Djokovic took a lot of daring on Djokovic's part to land up in Australia unvaccinated. Let me reiterate here that Novak Djokovic has done nothing wrong. Novak Djokovic followed the rules laid down by Tennis Australia and the Victorian state government for coming into Australia. He did not have a vaccine. He's unvaccinated. He had not revealed his vaccination status till those court documents became public. And he had to apply for a medical exemption, which was granted without any rules being bent. This is a statement made from the ATP Tour. The ATP Tour and Djokovic are not exactly seeing eye to eye. Djokovic has formed his own player's body. Yet, Djokovic did what was expected of him to come to play in Australia, which he did. It is only after a backlash within Australians that the matter became a political ping pong. How Djokovic has been treated, many are saying he's been treated like a common criminal. In fact, another player who was deported on similar grounds, the Czech player Renata Voráková, she said that she felt that she was treated like a criminal. This is something which is going to reverberate around the tennis world. Was Djokovic justified in coming without a vaccine? That's his personal call. The rules allowed him to do so. Did it justify his deportation? I don't think so. There will be sympathy for the way he's being treated. There will be less sympathy for Djokovic coming without a vaccine.
Digvijay, we know that Djokovic now faces imminent deportation from Australia, like you mentioned there. But what about the possible 3-year ban from entering Australia? What does that mean for Djokovic?
Well, that's interesting, and we'll have to wait and watch what the actual orders were from the Chief Justice of Australia who was hearing this case. As far as my understanding is that he has upheld the decision to deport Djokovic and the cancellation of the visa on the grounds that the immigration minister, Alex Hawke, is well within his right to cancel any person's visa. He has not made a decision based on the wisdoms of the case in which Djokovic's team sort of tried to allay fears that he was a public health risk. I think in the days going forward, this matter can be challenged even further, that you have cancelled a person's visa on this basis. Is Novak Djokovic a public risk? Is he a menace? I don't think so. And perhaps that is grounds for Djokovic to, in fact, go on and question this and challenge it. He has the means to challenge this order in the future, because let's face it, Djokovic is 34. He still has a good 2 or 3 years of high-class tennis at the top level still there in him. The young generation, which is out there, were not able to beat Djokovic in 3 of the 4 Grand Slams last year. Remember, he won 3 out of 4, reached the final in the 4th. The US Open lost to Medvedev. So Djokovic believes that he still has it in him to win 5 or 6 more Grand Slams at least and sort of widen that distance between him and Roger Federer and Rafael Nadal, who are all on 20 Grand Slam titles. So expect him to challenge this. He's won the Australian Open 3 times in a row before being ejected from this one. And he's won 9 titles. He's never lost a final at the Australian Open. So don't expect him to go down without a fight. He fought this fight. He fought this fight despite being pushed into a corner. And I really think that we will see more from the Djokovic legal team in the days ahead.
But generally speaking, what impact does the decision by Australian government and the court have on the future of sports during a pandemic?
Valid and important question that you're asking. And sport has continued around the world since 2020. In fact, June 2020 was when sports sort of started to fight back. You had the Bundesliga, which was the first sort of tournament to start behind closed doors, was followed by the Premier League, and sport has gone on. We've seen an Olympics happen behind closed doors. But Australia has so far resisted that. It's been limited to cricket. You see, the Indian cricket team went and toured last year. At the end of 2020 and then 2021 at the beginning. The England team is there right now. They've all had their own small bubbles. The other sports, Formula 1 hasn't been in Australia since 2020. MotoGP has not been in Australia. And a lot of people are now asking the question that should a tennis Grand Slam, which is the biggest event in a tennis calendar, there are 4 Grand Slams every year, what happens to the other players? Last year, a lot of them were put into detention, into quarantine, I beg your pardon, for 14 days, and they were not allowed to leave their rooms. They still went back to Australia to play this year. So I think when it comes to Grand Slam glory, whatever the rules are, players will still go and play. You just look back at what Nadal said on Saturday. He said, the Australian Open is bigger than any one person. So after a point when players see one of their main rivals out of the fray, they're looking to lift that trophy in 2 weeks' time.
Finally, Digvijay, maybe we can talk about Monday's game now. That reshuffle for the men's singles draw has been done, and while 150th men's player set to replace Djokovic, what does this mean for the game and for the player?
Well, all the best to Salvatore Caruso, the world number 150, who gets to play in place of Djokovic. But as the rules happen, Djokovic's spot was number 1 in the draw, so he was right at the top. Andrei Rublev, the 5th seed, he goes up there. He sort of starts getting a much more easier draw. The draw, Djokovic's presence intimidates a lot of people. Let's not forget, the last year he was absolutely brilliant. He was barely touchable. Lost 2 high-profile matches, one to Zverev in the Olympic Games in the semi-final, and to Medvedev in the final of the US Open, where he was trying to become the first man since Rod Laver in 1969 to win all 4 Grand Slams in the same year. The tennis will go on. The attention for a long time has been on Novak Djokovic, and that's what a lot of players have been saying, that where is the attention on the tournament? It's all on one individual. Now that this matter is finally over, the tennis can take over. Obviously, this issue is going to rumble. There's going to be political recriminations. This ping pong will happen. It's effectively a political decision to get rid of Djokovic from Australia. But as the tournament progresses, as we get into the second week, it's all about who's going to win that men's singles title. Let's not forget what's at stake. Nadal is on 20. Federer isn't playing. Djokovic isn't playing. If Nadal sort of wins this one, he gets to 21. He's the first man to 21. He moves ahead in the race to be the greatest of all time. As far as the young generation go, Medvedev has a shot. He reached the final last year. Medvedev has a shot at his 2nd Grand Slam title. Zverev has a shot at his 1st Grand Slam title. Tsitsipas, the world number 4, has a shot at his Grand Slam title, and that's how it goes on. In fact, with Djokovic out of the picture, no player in the last 11 years who has won this Australian Open is playing this tournament. The field has completely widened up. This tournament is up for grabs.
WION's sports editor Digvijay Singh Deo, thank you very much for your insights and for talking to us today. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.